Hello friends and enemies, it's me Isabel here with the books on my Just Say No shelf. You might be asking yourself, what's a Just Say No shelf? What are you talking about? This is weird. So on Goodreads, I have a dedicated shelf called Just Say No. This is where books that the author did something bad, I just don't want to read it. All kinds of things live. I'll have my little scroll video of the shelf for you right here and we'll talk about it. So for me, this is the shelf where literally I house anything that like pings my not for me. I keep seeing this and I need to remind myself that I don't want to read this book. I have no interest in it because of content or because honestly it just is not something I'm ever going to enjoy reading. So I put it on this shelf so whenever like somebody I know reads it and loves it, I'm like, no. You already know you won't like this. So don't try. So with that caveat, that's what my Just Say No shelf is. Some friends I know have a not interested, etc. type of thing on this shelf, and I'm not going to provide links or sources to all of these books. If you want that, you can go to these books on Goodreads and look at the bad reviews. They're there. You can search them on Twitter. You will find things to what I'm referencing, and I'm just going to give roundabout summaries to why they're on the shelf or what particularly is a thing for me on this book on why I put it on this shelf and don't want to read it. I was going to do like all my 1-star ratings, which we're going to do that video still anyways. I loved that Ashley did that over at Bookish Realm. I think it was a really fun video. So I'm going to do that too, but this was another one I thought about. I was like, oh, this would be fun. So this is kind of an anti-TBR situation, but also just a general like, nah, not a book for me, you know? So we're gonna go through this. I have 4 sections that I'll have timestamp down below if you want to jump around. I'm not going to timestamp by book because it's too many. That shelf has like 70 some books on it. But we do have categories. So our first category is authors who harass reviewers. Listen, this is the quickest way to end up on my Just Say No shelf. If I find out that an author is targeting reviewers for not liking their book, is mad because a reviewer gave a book 3 stars, 2 stars, 1 star, 4 stars, immediate no. Into the trash, onto the Just Say No shelf. That is what I do with them every single time. For example, the newest one is Lucy Bloom, a Australian author who lost her mind on Instagram with this reviewer and just kept going on about how miserable they are for not liking her book and missing the point. And when you write a book and you release it into the world, you don't own that book or the interpretations of that book anymore. It belongs to the readers. And the fact that like she has a couple books published and the publisher reached out to this reviewer and apologized for her actions. Yeah, that says a lot, doesn't it? That says a lot to me. They're just not it. Not for me. I refuse. Like, I just flat out refuse to engage. Then we have Courting Fate by A.R. Coffer. She also harasses reviewers, obviously, but this book also features possible plagiarism and or like copying of Sarah J. Maas's work. Like, whatever you want to say about Sarah J. Maas, the fact that like people copy her work and think they're not going to get caught is real fishy to me. Then we have The Night and the Moon by C.J. Piper, who just immediately went on my shit list when she started getting into it, and then her editor got into it with people about her book and just refuses to accept criticism. Also, she's like sapphic phobic, like she was arguing that her book's not sapphic, and it is, and it's just a whole thing. She's doxed a friend of mine, Rachel, over at Reads with Rachel. Like, no thank you. Will not touch her books with a 10-foot pole. Then we have Leaving Isn't the Hardest Thing by Lauren Ho, who had a epic meltdown on Twitter over reviews for her book and like just lost her ever loving mind. It is, I don't think I don't know if the thread still exists. If it still exists, you should look at it because it was bananas and a top-notch class in what not to do. Then we have Daughters of Erie-Town by Connie Schultz. This is a very specific and personal one because this one also was a friend of mine, Laura. She posted about this book, just like tweeted about reading it for book club, not enjoying it, really lost with it. And the author responded and got mad at her for not liking the book. Stop searching yourself. It's not hard. Then we have The Writhe and the Reckoning by Yavanna Leland, another one who's harassing reviewers on Twitter. No thank you. Then last but not least, I think the ultimate like harassment of reviewers author is Kathleen Hale. I will not touch her with 10-foot pole. Who would? When she literally stalked down a reviewer who didn't like her book and showed up at her house and then wrote a book about it. Why is she still being published? I don't know. But she terrifies me and I won't touch her with a 10-foot pole because whether or not she learned her lesson doesn't matter. That's not okay. Now we're going to get into the next section. Which is authors just generally behaving badly, whether that's them bullying other authors, just shit. just shit they do, and I hate it here sometimes. It's fine. So first we have Kate Brandy, who had a whole spiel on TikTok about how it's mean to DNF books. No, absolutely not. Not reading your books. Next, we have Jay Kristoff, who just this is like a blanket one for me. I don't like that man. Listen, all right, I'm gonna say this is a personal stance on him, but the feelings he gives me as a former like punk kid and someone who's been to a lot of concerts, married to somebody who's in a band, who like toured, did all the shit, right? That man feels like the creepy guy that would come up to you at concerts because he thought you were underage and would be inappropriate. That's the vibe I get. I'm not saying that's what he does, but that is the vibe I get, okay? And I say this as just like, that's the vibe I get. But I also will note that he fetishizes Asian culture, specifically Japan. Weird shit with teen girls in his book. Again, the feeling I get right there. He sends fans after anyone who criticizes him and attacked a reviewer for critiquing the Charlie Bowater art because it's just everywhere and they would love to see another artist get representation in books, like book covers. But yeah, he just creepy show vibes. Creepy guy at shows vibes or at like festivals. Like he just gives me that feeling. You know? It's just a thing. And I feel like weirdly qualified to commentate on this because I have experienced these people in my life multiple times. Next, we have Gardens of the Moon by Steve Erickson. So you might be like, Isabel, this is like not your genre. You're absolutely right, but I do dabble in fantasy sometimes. And you're going to notice some not my normal genre books on this list because I take note of what my friends read, of what they experience from fandoms in fantasy, because I want to be cautious and careful on who I pick up when I step outside of my normal genre. And this is exactly why. Steve Erickson repeatedly enters and violates reviewer spaces. He also sends his fans after them. He writes critiques back to the reviewers on his website or on his Facebook page, and it's creepy. Bethany did a video on him and like got just attacked in the comments for it. And I think the way your fans act to people who critique you says a lot about you as an author, generally speaking, especially if you aren't speaking out to correct it. So he's an immediate no thank you. And it's a book that I might have actually enjoyed, but nope. Next, we have Hate by Tate James, which is the specific book on the list. Tate James, when I first got onto TikTok, was everywhere. Very popular author, right? And she attacked another book talker who was doing a vlog while they read the book because people loved it and they thought, oh, I'll do a vlog while I talk about it as I read it. Well, that didn't go so well for them because Tate saw it and she attacked the reviewer basically and was like, just don't read my book, blah, 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 and was mean to them. And then her fans were mean to her for daring to read the book and not like it. And I just want to say, no. If your fans think it's okay to act this way, I don't want to read your books. And if you think it's okay, I don't want to read your books either. Next, we have Follow the River by C.E. Ritchie. This is a Men Loving Men gay book by a woman who thinks trigger warnings aren't necessary. And her book was full of a lot of traumatic shit, like rape. I have the trigger warnings up on Goodreads because she refused to share them. And it's a book that, to me personally, at the very least, seems to pander to the idea that to be gay, you have a lot of trauma and these things in your life that aren't necessarily true. Again, I haven't read the book. I don't know. But that's the feeling I get when I read the summary and what the trigger warnings are. So for me, it's just an immediate no. Next, we just have a general Megan March. I'm just throwing a book cover up here. She kind of came out during the pandemic as being like a pro-Trumper, anti-vax, sort of anti-mask weirdness. It's still up on her Insta. You can find it. But she talks about her time in South America and how much better it was and how much freer it was. And it is just fucking weird. So just no thank you. But she lives on this list because sometimes I see the titles and the author name and I get confused. And I know I shouldn't, but I just do sometimes. So we're going to talk about She Who Shall Not Be Named right now. This is J.K. Rowling's pen name, Robert Galbraith, which is a historic transphobe, of course. But yeah, this lives on the list just because, like I said, sometimes I will see this or books from them and not always click in my brain who it is. So it just helps me remember. Then I have Consensual Hex by Amanda Harlow. This was wild when it happened because turns out this author used the trauma of her queer friends in college to write a book. No, absolutely not. Then we've got a trio. We're gonna group these three together. One of them, I'm not sure what it is, but I'm grouping them in this group because I'm pretty sure it came around the same time. This is, again, another fantasy one. So we have Mike Cole, and Sam Sykes, and Mark Lawrence. All three of these are in my Just Say No shelf because they were in a group that was going around talking about sexual harassment at reading events and like cons. They were sexually harassing women at these events, and that made me just put them on my Just Say No shelf. I'm not gonna pick them up again. Some of these, especially like Seven Blades in Black by Sam Sykes, who by the way is Diana Gabaldon's son, is sapphic, and I just don't know how I feel about a man writing a sapphic romance. Just me over here not sure about that. Like, why couldn't a woman have gotten this opportunity? But we know why. Either way, they just kind of got lumped together into this shelf because I was like, these are popular books I see a lot. I don't want to read them. I don't want to support them. Then we have, oh, this should have been in the other section. Oh well, she's staying here. The Briar and the Rose by Laura Mills Alscott. She messaged a reviewer who was on Goodreads for lowering their star rating. So we have American Dirt by Janine Cummings. This is one that basically is because of racism. Why did a white author get to write a book about Mexican immigrants? I don't know. The promo events for this were really creepy and gross. The reaction to the criticism of this book was creepy and gross. The fact that this book is still everywhere is weird. The fact that the author tried to justify telling an immigrant story because her husband's an immigrant. He's from Ireland. Fuck off. No. Just no. Why? No. No. Then I have Girl Stop Apologizing by Rachel Hollis. Do I need to explain why Rachel Hollis is on my list? She is just the epitome of like mess. In my opinion, the things she said, the issues in her book, like just pull it up, you know, just very pull up your bootstraps and get to it mentality. Not here for it, not my thing. Then I have Cocky Roomy by Felina Hopkins. This just lives on here because of Cockygate in like 2018 when she tried to copyright Cocky and sued a bunch of authors for using it. It didn't work out in her favor. She's since like been on the run and stuff. It was wild. What a wild turn of events. Then we have Rory Powers and C.L. Herman. I put them on this list because they bullied authors of color, and I'm just not comfortable with that. It's just weird. It's just as weird to me. Then I have Emily Griffin, who is like a classic-ish chick lit author, we'll call it, women's fiction, whatever the frick you want to call it. I hate all these terms, but I don't know what else to call her. She like posted on her Instagram stories really nasty texts between her and a friend about Meghan Markle that were like racist and just really terrible. And I honestly, like, I don't give a crap about the royals, but there's one thing that will make me not pick up your books forever and always is anyone who like just hates Meghan Markle for no reason. Because so far I haven't found a real justification that isn't rooted in racism. So just, it's like, bye, see ya. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. And then last we have an author you probably never heard of, but it's Melanie Ray, who basically like threw a fit because the Readers were canceled in 2019, which was the RWA's Romance Awards. Yeah, that reaction for why it was canceled is not appropriate in my opinion, and I just think it makes you an automatic no thank you. All right, let's talk about content specifically in a book that put it on the Just Say No shelf. This is, again, going to be a range of things. We have Blind Fate by Jessica Tescher, something like that. This was in a Romance Landia recently. This is a white author who thinks she can write to the Black experience and that it's okay. And I just, no thank you. S.M. Soto plagiarized an entire book. That book has since been pulled and is marked as like not a book. It's like the Seasons of Callahan read, but she plagiarized another author for her book, like directly, panel for panel, no thank you. Next we have Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak. I don't know. Either way, no. Because this man, oh boy, this man. He basically did a transphobic twist at the end, and I just, in the climate today, that's a no. I mean, that's a no anyways, but like, extra no right now, you know? Like, it's just not it. And I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It really makes me sad. Bethany over at Beautifully Bookish Bethany, my pal, did a whole video where she read this and talked about it, so you should go check that out. Another one on my Just Say No list, which I've seen a good bit all around my feed, unfortunately, is Broken Whispers by Neva Altaj? Something like that. But she plagiarized this book from a book by Verona Lancet. So for me, it's just not it. I'm not going to read this. I have no interest in picking this author up. I can't trust anything they write to not be plagiarized, obviously. So that's where we stand. Next, we have Wrath Goddess Sing by Maya Dern. This was really sad. I was very excited for this book last summer when it came out, but it turns out we have a Achilles who is white enslaving a Black man. And I can't. Like, that's not gonna work for me. This is a trans story featuring trans characters, which also makes it like even more uncomfortable to me. Why do we have to do this? This wasn't a good idea. Then we have The Ones We Burn by Rebecca Minks. Another reverse racism, where the black characters are enslaving white characters. There's also anti-Semitic content in this book, including like blood libel. No thanks. Then we have We All Fall Down by Rose Zabo, which features a woman inflicting harm to gay men. I'm not comfortable with this as a whole plot point. I also don't love that there's some stuff about the author being racist, so that just... Then we have Love and War by Shira Lynn. This is a book that features a black woman in Paris during World War II who ends up with a man who was a surgeon for the Nazis and was forced into being a surgeon and is beloved by a lot of people apparently, and I just can't grasp reading a romance novel with a Nazi as a main character. And I don't know why this needed to exist. I don't know why this needed to be written. I just don't understand. Then we have Double Edged by Nyla K. Listen, this is another one. I will instant unfollow people who read Nyla K. I cannot with this author. She writes really troubling to me taboo romances, and I like taboo books, okay? I don't dislike taboo books. I'm down for a taboo book, but I think there's a lot of harm in taboo books that she writes, specifically because like this one features twincest, which can be really harmful to twins, and also has a stepfather romance, but all of it includes them seducing their stepfather while they're underage. And I just think that's weird. And there's a lot of other stuff with this. There's like some grooming in it. It's just, I'm deeply uncomfortable with this and I don't think it's okay. And I think Nyla K writes that predominantly kind of thing where for me, this isn't just taboo. Like I feel like there's taboo and then there's this. And this is like beyond taboo. This is just not it for me in a way that is like deeply uncomfortable. And it doesn't exist to make you uncomfortable, right? Like it's erotica, romance. It's supposed to make you feel hot. And no, like I'm deeply uncomfortable with that. I'm deeply uncomfortable with anything incest related. It just shouldn't, I just don't feel like it's taboo. Like, I just don't think it's taboo. I just think it's gross. I think it's a real problem. And I think we really ignore people who are victims of incest when we put this into our romance books. Next we have Ladies First by Liberty Adams. Do I need to say more? Do you see this cover? Yeah, no thank you. I also have The Billionaire's Slave by Stacey Dean. I had so many questions when this first came across my feed somewhere, and I still have so many questions every time I see this. Why did we think this was a good idea? Yes, it's exactly what you think it is. It's about a white man in the Civil War and his slave falling in love. This is not appropriate. No one asked for this. Stop, don't write this. Next, we have Someone You Love by Kristen Granada, who I had to block on TikTok because I could not get her off my feed for a brief moment. And I was like, you're that one who plagiarized Kristen Callahan. Absolutely not. So in this book, she plagiarized Make It Sweet by Kristen Callahan. No thank you. Then we have At Love's Command by Karen Whitmire. This was part of the RWA, like Rita's. It did win, I believe. And it glorifies and idolizes a hero who committed acts of genocide. So that's great. Just no thank you. Then I have Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan. This has anti-Semitic content in it, including blood libel. She also has xenophobic characters and is a writer who bullied people, and it's really weird to me. I will never understand authors bullying other authors. Like, just stop. Act like adults. You're adults. Then we have Afterlands by Lauren Bukes. This has transmisogyny as a plot. Basically, there's a pandemic and a thing that kills all men, and it just completely ignores the existence of trans people, and I just think it's weird. I don't understand why it needs to be that way. It's just kind of gross. The State of Us by Sean David Hutchinson is a black teen and a white teen, both on different sides of the political spectrum. I think one of their dads is running or something. I don't know a ton. Either way, it's a right-left romance, conservative liberal romance. Not here for it. I don't care. Stop it. He also blocked a black reviewer who critiqued the black representation in this book. There's some great reviews on Goodreads of people who read this and dive deep into that. I highly recommend checking them out if you're curious, but no thank you. Then we have Meet You in the Middle by Devin Daniels. This is another liberal woman meets a conservative man and they fall in love. At 90% in the book, he reveals that he was only mean to her because he liked her. No, you're adults. Stop it. Stop it. This isn't grade school. No. But also, this came out like peak like Trump time. And I just can't not believe this book is not Trump propaganda at the end of the day. Let's see. Mating Theory by Skye Warren, who I will read from, just not this book. The female main character in this book is revealed to be 17 while she's banging the other character and he's like 22 or something. No thank you. No thank you. The Kissing Game by Marie Hart. This is a white woman writing an interracial romance. Fine, whatever, right? But the issue is she then thinks she can speak on racism towards Black people and the Black experience. That's a no. That's a no. Let's just not do that. It's weird. And absolutely every single Black reviewer I followed that tried to read this book DNF'd it. So that to me says enough. Snapped by Alexa Martin. This is one, like, I read other books in the series and I liked them. I just would skip this one personally because it features a hero who's protesting racism in the NFL and stuff and police violence and all these things by taking a knee like Colin Kaepernick. The heroine is biracial and a PR person and trying to like help him recover and trying to tell him not to do it and all this stuff. And they don't communicate the whole book almost, and like she doesn't grasp why he's doing this, which to me just seems banana pants. And like it takes until like 90% of the story and she like figures it out and quits her job. My friend Melinda read this and like critiqued the romance part of it really well, and that immediately convinced me that it's a no for me because I just don't want to read a book about those issues that has a heroine who's too dense to realize why they're issues, because I really don't think it's that complicated. Next we have Woven in Moonlight by Isabel Ibanez. This is a Bolivian inspired fantasy novel. I love this cover. I was very sad about this, but basically everyone who knows anything about the Bolivian climate, political climate, said absolutely not, that this is like a colonizer point of view, and just roasted it. So I immediately was like, cool, we're not picking it up. Then we have Heart of Stone by Dakota Wilnick. This author copied passages from the Crossfire series by Sylvia Day, which, why are y'all stealing from popular books and think you won't get caught? I don't understand. Next we have Balance by Lucia Franco. This is a series that has long been on my no thank you list. I saw it when it first got popular and the girls were like 14 in this series. And we were going through the trials for the gymnast stuff in America and the assaults and all these things, right? And this book was coming out and inspired by those events. And I don't know how you can romanticize such a trauma for a group of people that happened and was like a very real reality. But two, the book got banned off Amazon because the characters were too young and it wasn't legal in the state they were in. So she aged them up and changed the location so it would be legal. So now they're 16 in the new version. And I don't need to read about a 16-year-old with like a late 20s, 30-year-old. This shouldn't be. This is gross. Like, you couldn't even make them 18. Like, at the least, you couldn't even make them 18. I'm not here for it. Next, we have A Rogue of One's Own by Evie Dunmore. This one, I was sad to put on my not want to read shelf. I saw a lot about it from Southeast Asian reviewers. There's a Shiva-inspired tattoo on the hero's chest. And he kind of like doesn't describe it well, and it's real weird, very weird. Like I read the quote and it's just weird. But also we have a villainous gay, like a gay villain trope happening. So I just immediately was like, no thank you. I really don't care for this. Next we have Unbreak Me by Michelle Hazen. This book features a Black character who is named after Lyndon B. Johnson. It's fucking weird, right? Like, that's weird. But this also features racism, like some really bad comments and stereotypes about New Orleans and the Ninth Ward and all these things that are just icky. So it's a no. Then we have Hot Dog Girl by Jennifer Dugan. This one went on my list because she fake dates her gay best friend to make the guy she likes jealous. And I'm not here for that. That's not a fun time. Then we have My Name is Ayan. I do not have the author written down for this somehow. I got everyone else, and I'm not going to look it up because you know what? We're almost done. I'm going to keep going. This is a master-slave dynamic, and outside of BDSM, that does not work for me, and there has to be like things set up for that. 2, the female main character is 14? No. All of Us with Wings by Michelle Ruiz Keel features a 17-year-old and a 28-year-old love story romance situation. Not here for pedophilia. This is also a YA book, I'm pretty sure, so like absolutely not. Then we have A Place for Wolves by Kosako Jackson. So this is one where I would still read a book by this author because they have apologized. They've asked the book to be pulled from publication, but it does feature a Muslim character who's a terrorist. It's set during real life genocide in Kosovo, and it's just weird. It just seems weird. I don't know. There's some stuff going on here that I'm not comfortable with, but I do appreciate the authors asked for it to be pulled from publication. And I would possibly try one of their other books, like with some other friends, having liked them or not. Then I have TikTok by Jane Harvey Barrick. This one, the female main character dies, like the love interest. She dies at the end. So that's not a romance. And I think there was something else in this book with racism, but I can't find my notes on it. So who knows? But either way, if the female main character dies, I'm out. It's also not a romance. And then last for this category, this section, we have Midnight Hunter by Brianna Hale, our other Nazi romance. This is set in 1963 and does feature a Nazi hero. And no, Brianna, you should know better. You should know better. All right, next we've got just a couple books in my just not for me category for this one where it's not necessarily books that I have like specific things that are why, and why, like it's more specific as to why I wouldn't want to read them and why I'm not interested in them. So first up we have The Seat Filler. This is by Soraya Wilson. Okay, so I don't like real people fic, first things first. That's not a thing I like. And this is inspired by her experience as a seat filler at the Oscars or something and being seated next to Adam Driver. Okay, so May did read this kind of as a joke. I told her not to also at the same time. I was like, you could totally read it and tell me how bad it is. It's weird insert self fic to be with Adam Driver. And also, thanks Adam Driver, all the people in his life, but it completely skips his wife, which is weird. Not for me. Then I have The Binding by Bridget Collins. This is one that ended up on this list because there's like a gruesome murder of a pet. And also one of the content warnings I saw was just like tons of rape. I'm good. I know some people that liked this. Not for me, you know? Okay, next we have The Bandit by B.B. Reed. I actually have 2 books by B.B. Reed on this list. So this one has like the kidnapping of a child, also like lots of rape or attempted rape. I'm good. It ended up here because a bunch of people I must have been following on Goodreads were reading it, and I was like, this is not for me. I also have Fear Me by B.B. Reed on here. Again, why? This features a hero that is blackmailing our female main character, as well as being set in high school, so I just kind of have no interest in it to an extent. There's a couple books I like that are set in high school and that I'll read and I would like to finish, but for the most part, it takes a lot these days for me to pick up a high school set romance. And then last is a beloved series. It's Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie. I know there's another reason they're on this list and I cannot remember it. And I don't know if it's that. No, because that was Alexa Riley. I don't know why, but there's another reason that I cannot remember. But one, I've always been a little bit creeped out. Listen, and there's no judgment here, but also like a little judgment. They're like sisters that write romances together. I just think it's strange. And then I saw somewhere that their mom edits their books, and that's also strange, or did edit their books. But on top of that, beyond that, for me, I've tried to read this book. I could not get through the writing of it. I understand why people like it, but to me, it is just like barely a step above Colleen Hoover. Just a step above a Colleen Hoover. So yeah, there's that. That's basically my whole Just Say No shelf. I hope you enjoyed this. I know this is a long video. But if you want to see the shelf, it's linked down below. Some of these have reviews, some of them don't, as to why they're on the list. Have at. If you're curious, I would love to know. Do you track authors you don't want to read, books you're not interested in, like this? Do you not? Do you just kind of like wing it and float through life? If so, I'm envious of you, but at the same time, like, I don't know. Sometimes my brain just like sees a book so many times I'm like, I don't want to read this anymore. Or I just know, like Addicted to You, it's not going to work for me. So there's that. If you don't want to do any of that, leave me a black heart emoji in the comments, because obviously I know I'm a very mean and cruel person for doing this video and for talking about negative things. I think it's interesting to hear what's on my Just Say No shelves personally. This is also a fun refresher for me on what's on that shelf, because I gotta admit, I mostly add stuff and don't look back. So there's that. But yeah, let me know in the comments. And if you want to tell me any of your authors or books on your Just Say No shelves type thing, let me know too. Always curious to see like what other people are feeling about certain things, or like do we have the same ones, etc. Anyways, and I will be back in just a few days in my next video, and I'll talk to y'all then. Bye.
Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we